Yulebringer, Mantle of the Gift Bringer. Chapter 1. Accidental Discovery. In the snow-blanketed village of Winterhaven, nestled deep within the Frostweil Mountains, the air was thick with despair. The winters had grown harsher over the years, and the villagers whispered of the Yulebringer, the mysterious figure who once brought warmth and gifts to their ancestors. But the Yulebringer had not been seen for generations, and many doubted the stories were anything more than fanciful tales. Eric, a young blacksmith's apprentice, worked diligently in his master's forge. His hands, calloused from years of wielding hammers and tongs, handled the heavy crates of supplies with ease. One such crate, delivered by a peculiar traveler wrapped in furs, caught his attention. As he pried it open, expecting iron and tools, a strange, leather-bound book slid out and landed at his feet. The book's cover shimmered faintly, as though frost and fire danced upon its surface. Curious, Eric picked it up, brushing away the coal dust that clung to its surface. When he opened it, glowing runes illuminated the page, casting a warm light that contrasted sharply with the cold forge. The words were written in an ancient tongue, yet Eric found he could read them as if they spoke directly to his mind. When the hand of the humble finds these words, the forge unlit by fire shall burn anew. A heart unbroken by frost shall reignite the light, and the mantle of joy shall be earned by deeds alone. A shiver ran down Eric's spine. He turned to the page, revealing illustrations of a cloaked figure, their face hidden, standing before a blazing hearth. Beside the hearth were sacks of gifts and a sleigh pulled by spectral beasts. Could this be the Yulebringer of legend? "What's that you found, lad?" came the gruff voice of his master, breaking his reverie. Eric snapped the book shut and tucked it under his arm. "Just a book, master." "Nothing of use for the forge," he replied. Later that night, by the dim light of a single candle, Eric read the book in secret. It spoke of the Heart of Eternity, a mystical forge said to burn with an eternal flame, and the Yulebringer's duty to spread gifts and warmth during the harshest winters. But the book was cryptic, its words hinting at trials and sacrifices. Eric felt a stirring in his heart. Could the Yulebringer's mantle truly be real? And could he, a mere blacksmith's apprentice, be part of this grand tale? Chapter 2. The Journey Begins. The next morning, Eric sought out Branwen, the traveler who had delivered the crate. She was a mysterious figure, her fur-lined cloak always concealing her face. When he approached her at the edge of the village, she turned to him with a knowing smile. "You've read the Codex," she said without preamble. Eric blinked in surprise. "How did you—" "The Codex reveals itself only to those it deems worthy," Branwen interrupted. "But worthiness is not guaranteed. Many have found it before you and failed to rekindle the Yule flame." Her words sent a jolt of doubt through him, but Eric squared his shoulders. "What must I do?" Branwen gestured toward the distant mountains. "The Heart of Eternity lies beyond the Frostweald. It is there you will face trials to prove your worth. The journey will not be easy." Eric nodded, determination hardening in his chest. With only a pack of provisions and his sturdy hammer, he set out into the snowy wilderness. The biting cold gnawed at his fingers, but he pressed on, the glowing runes of the Codex etched into his memory. The journey was fraught with dangers. Ice wolves stalked him through the frozen forest, their glowing eyes piercing the darkness. Eric fashioned traps from the tools in his pack, managing to evade their fangs. As days passed, he encountered villagers in need, a family whose fire had died, a child lost in the snow. Each time, Eric paused to help, sharing his meager supplies and crafting tools to ease their burdens. Though the Codex's prophecy weighed heavily on his mind, he began to realize that the journey itself was shaping him. The villagers' gratitude warmed his heart, even as the winter winds howled. Chapter 3. Trials of the Forge. After weeks of travel, Eric reached the base of a towering mountain. At its peak, a faint, otherworldly glow pulsed, the Heart of Eternity. With aching limbs, he ascended the treacherous path, the air growing thinner and colder with every step. When he finally reached the summit, he found a grand forge carved into the mountainside. its anvil and bellows gleaming as if untouched by time. The Yule flame burned faintly within, a flicker of warmth in the icy expanse. Before the forge stood a massive coiled dragon made of living fire and molten metal, the flame worm. The creature's eyes glowed like embers as it regarded Eric. "Who dares approach the heart of eternity?" it rumbled. Eric stepped forward, his knees trembling but his voice steady. "I am Eric, a blacksmith's apprentice. I seek to rekindle the Yule flame." The worm's laugh was a roar that shook the mountain. "Many have come before you, claiming the same. What makes you worthy?" Eric swallowed hard. "I cannot say if I'm worthy, but I have come to try." The worm's eyes narrowed. "Then prove it. Forge a gift of solace from the coldest iron and the faintest spark." Eric paused, the weight of the worm's words sinking in. A gift of solace. What could he craft that would truly embody warmth and hope in the coldest of winters? His thoughts turned to the villagers he had met on his journey, the family whose fire had died, the child lost in the snow. He realized that light, more than anything, had been their salvation. A lantern, he decided, a beacon that could endure even the fiercest storm, would serve as a symbol of enduring hope. With his heart set, he nodded to the worm and approached the forge. Eric set to work, his hands steady despite the freezing wind that howled around him. He scoured the mountaintop for scraps of ore, using the flickering Yule flame to heat the forge. The task was grueling. The flame wavered, and the metal resisted shaping. But Eric poured his heart into the work, thinking of the villagers who suffered in the cold. After hours of toil, he crafted a beautiful lantern, its frame intricate and sturdy, designed to protect the fragile light within. As he held it aloft, the Yule flame surged, its warmth filling the forge. The worm nodded approvingly. "You have passed the first trial, but the greatest challenge lies ahead." Chapter 4. The Frost King's Wrath. The mountain trembled as the Frost King descended upon the forge. His form was a towering specter of ice and shadow, his eyes glowing with malice. He moved with an unnatural grace, frost crackling underfoot with every step. "So another seeks to defy me," he sneered, his voice like the grinding of glaciers. Eric gripped his lantern tightly, its light a small but defiant glow. "I do not seek to defy you. I seek to bring warmth to those you torment." The Frost King laughed, a sound that froze the very air and sent shivers down Eric's spine. "And what makes you believe you are any different from the countless fools who came before you? You will fail, and your flame will die." Without warning, the Frost King raised a hand, summoning a blizzard that howled through the forge. Snow and ice battered against Eric, threatening to extinguish the lantern. He shielded the light with his body, his fingers burning with cold as he clung to the handle. The Frost King's power seemed insurmountable, each wave of icy magic stronger than the last. Eric gritted his teeth, his resolve hardening with every assault. He reached for the tools around the forge, improvising defenses against the Frost King's onslaught. Using the bellows, he fanned the Yule flame, sending arcs of heat to push back the encroaching frost. Sparks flew as his hammer struck the anvil, creating bursts of warmth that momentarily kept the Frost King at bay. But the Frost King was relentless. Ice crept up Eric's legs, and his strength began to wane. In a moment of desperation, he recalled the gratitude of the villagers he had helped on his journey. Their faces, their stories, they were the reason he had come this far. Summoning the last of his strength, Eric plunged the lantern into the Yule flame, igniting it with a brilliant golden light. The forge erupted with heat and fire, and the Frost King recoiled, his icy form cracking under the warmth. He let out a roar of fury, his body splintering into 1,000 shards of ice that melted into harmless snowflakes, carried away by the wind. Eric fell to his knees, breathing heavily as the Yule flame burned brighter than ever, its warmth banishing the chill that had clung to the mountaintop. Chapter 5. The Mantle of the Yulebringer. As the Frost King's presence faded, the heart of eternity roared to life. The flames danced higher and brighter, casting golden light across the forge. The spectral figure of the last Yulebringer emerged from the glow, their form cloaked in the same fur-lined mantle that had become the stuff of legend. "Young one," the spirit said, their voice resonating like the toll of a great bell, "you have proven yourself through courage, selflessness, and resolve. The mantle of the Yulebringer is yours, should you choose to accept it." Eric's breath caught in his throat. The weight of the moment pressed down on him like the heaviest hammer. I'm just a blacksmith's apprentice. How can I be worthy of such a legacy?" The spirit's gaze softened. "Worthiness is not a measure of skill or birthright. It is a measure of the heart. You have shown that the light within you burns brighter than the coldest frost." Eric's mind raced, but he thought of the villagers, the lives he could touch. With a deep breath, he knelt before the spirit and bowed his head. "I accept." The spirit extended their hands, and the Yulebringer's mantle materialized, a deep red cloak trimmed with white fur and shimmering with golden runes. As Eric donned it, he felt a surge of warmth and power, as though the Yule flame itself now burned within him. Beneath the cloak, his simple tunic transformed into a suit of deep red, accented with sturdy black boots and a broad belt, practical yet regal. A sleigh appeared beside him, carved from the same glowing metal as the forge's tools. Its runners gleamed like polished ice, and it was drawn by spectral reindeer-like creatures, with eyes that sparkled like stars. Within the sleigh were sacks of gifts, each glowing softly with an inner light. The spirit placed a hand on Eric's shoulder. "The light of the Yulebringer is not merely a flame. It is a promise of hope and solace. Go now, and carry that light to those in need." Eric climbed into the sleigh, his heart filled with a mixture of awe and determination. As the spectral creatures took flight, lifting him into the starlit sky, he looked back at the heart of eternity, its flame a beacon in the snowy expanse. That night, as the villagers of Winterhaven huddled in their homes, they saw a figure silhouetted against the moon, a red cloak billowing behind him. For the first time in generations, the Yulebringer had returned, bringing hope and light to the darkest of winters. If you've enjoyed this story and would like to hear some more, do let us know in the comments below. And also, don't forget to like and subscribe. It helps us a lot. Thanks.